share with you a couple of thoughts of some things that I've been thinking about in regards to the Torah portion this week. And I had one of those moments where, I guess to quote one of my favorite movies, there's something there that wasn't there before. Or as Rabbi Ben Bagbag said, you just keep turning it and turning it because everything's in it. You never know what you're going to find in Torah study that makes you think of something and perhaps the world in a different way. And one of these things happened, and it made me think of the famous picture of Rabbi Feinstein of blessed memory in his wonderful white robe standing on the sanctuary of Mitzvah with his hands going like this. And the study that I did made me wonder, as he gave the priestly sign, did he wash his hands? I know it's a ridiculous thought to have, but it came out of legitimate study of Torah, and I think it's definitely something that is germane to our life today. The pastor of the Ascension Lutheran Church, Jeff Krim, who's a dear friend, has invited me to take part in a Psalms study on Zoom with him to share with his congregation. And specifically, it was Psalm 134. And in my dutiful preparation, I was looking for midrashim on this psalm, and I found one referencing this phrase about coming to God with your hands clean. And it said, basically, the midrash said that you should never go and bless the people with unclean hands. That you should always wash your hands if you're the priest before you actually offer them a blessing. And so, anytime, I guess, obviously, because your palms are exposed, not only would it be unseemly if you were to bless the congregation with unclean hands, but it would also be something that they would know that you didn't put the extra effort or the extra thought into this sacred moment of taking care of it. So actually, I've come forward and suggested that maybe as we're washing our hands now, that we sing the 134th Psalm 2 times, so that we know that we've done it for an adequate amount of time. But there's something in this psalm that I never knew was there before in our study, and something that I hope that those of us, or those of you who remember Rabbi Feinstein well, are certain that he probably kept himself with good hygiene, especially when he came to bless the congregation. But part of this also led into another aspect of our Torah portion, Tazria Metzora, and that was, there's all these things in it about leprosy and diseases and being inspected and seeing who needs to be put out of the community for a little while and isolated and quarantined, and when can we bring them back in. But there are some other things that are described within this dual Torah portion that talk about what can make somebody in an impure state for the purposes of approaching the altar for sacrifices. And a lot of it, basic bodily functions that everybody has. It talks specifically about some of the things that happen with women's bodies. There are a couple of things that happen with men's bodies that it says will put you into an impure state for the purposes of sacrifice. And the something there that wasn't there before moment that I had with this as I was studying it was like, these are things that only the people who are going through this would know is happening to them. It's a form of self-isolation from the altar and self-isolation, self-reporting that they're going through it. For if they were to go ahead and offer their sacrifice in what would have been theoretically the impure state according to Leviticus, no one really would have been the wiser. Of course, we would say that perhaps God could have been the wiser, that God would have known and not accepted the sacrifice. But in all practical terms, really, it wouldn't have made much difference. We could imagine several circumstances where somebody was in perhaps an impure state and the sacrifice went ahead without any real issue. But what happened is if they did do that, then they actually took a risk or put the rest of the community at risk for this sacrifice not being acceptable. So it was really an early example in Leviticus of people saying, I take responsibility for my own actions for the benefit of the community. And I think this is one of the common misconceptions about quarantine right now, is a lot of people are saying, well, if you feel comfortable, go ahead and go out and, you can go to the bowling alleys in Georgia or get a tattoo or something like that if you want. Um, but if you feel so comfortable to do so. But that's not the point. The point is self-awareness of what might occur if you step out of what's expected, the self-reporting, the self-isolation, the self-quarantine. And it could be something that does have an effect on the larger community. The stakes are higher than just a simple sacrifice in Levitical days. The stakes are about, looking out for the common good, not what I feel comfortable, what risk I feel comfortable with. It's about the risk that I might put other people in as well. In the last moment of realization that I looked at, there's something there that wasn't there before in the Torah portion this week, has to do with how we treat people who have been in isolation or quarantined with the disease they have. Much has been made, well, gosh, we send them away to these colonies where they recoup, but it's not done to isolate them socially. It's done to give them a chance to heal. And one thing that we overlook frequently when we study this Torah portion, is that when it's time to bring them back, once their skin infections have healed, that none other than the high priest himself goes out to greet them, to inspect them, and then to invite them back into the community. So the person of distinction sets the example for the rest of the community to say they're always welcome back in. So it's not about whom we get rid of, it's about whom we bring into the fold and how we take care of each other in this community. Everything about this goes beyond the personal. The washing of the hands isn't just about the washing of the hands for the priest to give the benediction, but it's so that the benediction have a good appearance and show respect for the community. The social isolation here, or the self-containment of things, isn't about just what you want to do or if you feel comfortable doing it. It's about what could happen to the rest of the community if I choose to do something and it's premature. And lastly, it's also about thinking beyond just the fear of another person, or the isolation that a person can feel when they have been separated for so long, that it's up to us as a community to make sure that everyone is comforted and taken care of. So it's really a delight that all of this came from some interfaith dialogue with the Lutheran Church, some thoughts of a wonderful leader in mitzvahs past, and also just some good Torah study that brought me to some new realizations, and hopefully can be something that guides all of us in the coming days as well. So may we go from this moment to better moments and strength to strength, and may we all have a Shabbat Shalom.